Oh, what's up, man? Today, taking a look. It's quite an interesting video. All right, I've been planning on making this for quite some time, and it's finally gonna happen. All right, I noticed there's still a lot of confusion about the pet battle system in World of Warcraft. So I figured, why not make a comparison video comparing that and Pokemon. Now, if you don't know me, let me tell you something. I play a lot of World of Warcraft. Okay. And I also play a lot of Pokemon. So this is an ideal mix, right? Like, they're literally, I mean, this is a perfect video for me. And I noticed that there wasn't a lot of other, you know, I haven't seen any literature or video on this topic. So I figured, why not go for it? Now, this video is a three-part series, okay? There's going to be annotations on the screen and links in the description to the other parts. The first part we're doing is all about the combat, all right, how it's different. This is a huge topic, so this one's probably going to be the longest of the three videos. And if it's too long for you, in the description is also like a transcript with timestamps. So every like subtopic I talk about on this meta topic, you can kind of check out yourself and, you know, move through if you need to move at a different pace than the video's going. So I'm going to turn the hat backwards, right? Why else would we not do that? And it's time to talk about some Pokemon. All right, so this is obviously just a PowerPoint and some static images, but I think it does the job. All right. So first up, all right, I am assuming that you know both systems. Okay, obviously you hopefully have played Pokemon before, and if you know the WoW system a little bit, that's fine. That's all you need to know. It's not too in depth, and we're gonna go through the big differences. All right, so let's get right into it. So the first topic we want to talk about here is same type attack bonus. All right, it's a pretty interesting topic if you ask me. I think this is pretty much what makes Pokemon what it is. Like, this one topic makes Pokemon what it is. But basically, it allows teams of similar Pokemon to have no negative repercussion for using their counter in WoW. All right, since there is no stab in WoW. All right, let me make that clear. There is not stab in WoW. Same type attack bonus does not exist. And you know, because of that, you literally could have a team, say, of like flying Pokemon, which is a type in WoW as well, that uses abilities. So, you know, magic would counter flying, and then, you know, something would counter magic, right? Whatever it is, I don't even know at this point. But either way, you allow that team to have flying type, but use abilities that counter the counter of that type. So it's pretty interesting. And obviously, there's no dual typing in WoW. So, you know, this wouldn't really work if there was stab. Or if there was no stab, you couldn't really have dual typing, right? It would just be pointless. So, okay, that's that topic. Moving on to typing traits, all right? Since there's no stab, there is, in conjunction with the lack of stab, we have typing traits, all right? And while each pet type has a passive trait, okay, which is something that's obviously different for Pokemon, this plays a large part into the pet, like a very, very, very large part. For example, undead pets res when they reach 0 health, all right? And it can actually be pretty intricate because no stab, it allows certain combinations of like moves and classes that wouldn't really work the same way otherwise. For example, one great combination is there's an ability that when it kills a Pokemon, you gain health for how much damage it did, okay? But if you kill an undead Pokemon or a pet, you know, with that, then it doesn't actually, it doesn't take the health, right? Because you didn't actually die. You get rezzed and then you die of your own causes. So that ability is negated. And that's something that I don't think could happen in Pokemon. So pretty cool. Next up is the quality, or like the quantity of pets you can use in one battle. Like your team, quote unquote, is only 3 pets. So that's different from Pokemon. Obviously, massive difference there. This makes your typical boss battle, right? Your trainer, or, you know, something like a gym leader equivalent in WoW, makes it much more difficult, honestly, because it's more about pure turn-to-turn counters instead of just like mix and match. You know what I mean? It's strong, so I'm going to throw this out. And, you know, think about like having to fight 2 Pokemon at once, basically, is kind of how it equates. It's just the Pokemon is double as strong, and you only have to fight 3 of them. This makes WoW pet battles have the potential to be much more challenging than your typical Pokemon one. So it's pretty interesting in that respect. Now, the battle options are a big difference as well, okay? This is actually a huge deal If you play Pokemon by default, what you're doing is playing in the shift style of battling, meaning that, so say the enemy Pokemon is like a Geodude and I got a Squirtle, and then I beat the Geodude and the next Pokemon that's sent out is a Pikachu. Well, that's strong against my Squirtle, isn't it? So I have an option to withdraw that Squirtle and put something else out in response to his choice. That is the shift style. But there's also the set style in Pokemon, which isn't default, but that's how PvP in Pokemon, like the actual game, is done. And this is the default for WoW. You cannot change it. It's not default. It's the only option. Okay, and because of that, you're pretty much screwed. You know what I mean? Like, there's only 3 Pokemon, and if you don't already know the team, then you're just gonna lose. Like, you literally, it's near impossible to win the first time you ever fight a real PvE encounter. All right, and this obviously, equates to a lot of preparation being needed, but I don't know. Something that we'll talk about in another video is net teaming, right? It's like net decking in Hearthstone. Basically, just looking up the answer to the question. You know what I mean? Like, not even trying to solve it. And because it's so intense, like, because you can't make a response yourself in the game once the battle started, you have to know what's happening before it happens. It's kind of unfortunate, but anyway, that's a big difference. Now, another huge difference is the amount of health and damage each pet does in WoW pet battling. Okay, in the game Pokemon, equal level Pokemon often one-shot each other. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm strong against something, if that Squirrel's fighting that Geodude, it's probably gonna one-shot him, especially in the mid to high levels. But this never ever happens in WoW. If 2 pets are on equal standing, like they're the same level and equal quality, you'll never, not even close, you'll probably only do about 1/3 with a normal, like, repeatable attack. And there's a lot of different types of attack we'll talk about later, but with a normal repeatable attack, there's pretty much no chance you're going to one-shot that Pokemon. Okay, I would say this is balanced for 3v3, but it's just a big difference you got to get used to. And this obviously makes the default set battles much more punishing. You know what I mean? Since you don't know, especially if you don't know what's coming and you can't change once you know, then you're probably, that first Pokemon's probably, I keep saying Pokemon, it's hard, it's a habit, it's hard to break. All right, that first pet is going to die. It's just like you can't stop that. So yeah, and once again, that kind of results in net teaming, quote unquote. But with this, there's a great emphasis on the long term in a battle. Okay, there's a much higher need for long-term effects in the WoW pet battle instead of in the Pokemon game, right? In Pokemon, it's pretty common to, like, just sweep. You know, if you have an Alakazam and you're fighting a team full of poison types, you can pretty much just use 6 Psychics and all 6 Pokemon die. But that is never going to happen in WoW, all right? And there's a lot more abilities. For example, like an ability that in 3 turns does a ton of damage. You just set it and forget it and then carry on. There's a lot of abilities like that, and, you know, heals over time, stuff like that. And, you know, in Pokemon, you can pretty much get away with never using a single ability that isn't just a basic damaging attack. Like I said, just spamming Psychic, literally knowing the type advantage and using the best damage dealing move in that type advantage. But in WoW, it's a much more planned out universe. Like, you need to be able to say, well, I'm going to stun him on this turn because I know he's going to try to charge up his ability there, and then I'm going to set a heal up because he put up a weather effect that makes my heal stronger, etc. Stuff like that. It's a lot more about planning. Like abilities like Sand Attack, you know what I mean? They're a lot more important in WoW, and I think that's a good thing. Now, with this, the AI is much smarter in WoW than it is in Pokemon. Pretty much because there's no, like, really shitty abilities like, you know, like using Protect when you're not even about to take damage. Just stuff like that the AI does in Pokemon all the time. Or, like, it spams Growl when it's already about to die. Like, it's got 5 health and it uses Growl. You know what I mean? Like, these are bad mistakes that the AI makes, and ones that just don't happen in WoW. Mostly because those types of abilities just don't exist. But yeah, it's pretty intense, you know, to realize that literally every time the opponent uses an ability, it's going to do something bad. It's very rare that it doesn't. But this does lead to predictable patterns. In fact, it's almost 100% so. You can literally predict, like, every single time you fight this trainer, you know exactly what he's going to do in response to your moves. So provided you don't stun him or something like that, like disrupt his flow, he's going to use his like 3-turn cooldown ability first, and then his, you know, regular, his spender, stuff like that. He's just going to go in like a pattern that you can easily predict. This makes it, you know, much more counterable if you have the right team, but requires much more preparation. And once again, you know, kind of leads to net decking. But there's no confuse or status moves in WoW pet battling. That's a big difference. Honestly, I feel like those things just they have no place in either game. It's kind of unfortunate. Like, I don't know, maybe in competitive battling there's a use for confuse and stuff like that, but the RNG is just so frustrating. So I prefer WoW's focus on the, like, you know, long-term predictions. Like, you know when he's going to use this ability and you have a counter to it, so you use it. Not like, oh, I've gotten confused and now I just can't attack for 4 turns in a row. And it's super frustrating, but I do love Pokemon, and that's just one of the detracting factors. Now, the EV and effort value system, you know, whatever, is pretty much wholly replaced with what's called the quality system. Basically, you can buy a level 25 pet from somebody else, stuff like that. Like, there's rare candies in this game, quote unquote, like an item that raises a level, stuff like that. You can power boost your pets. That doesn't change anything. Like, it literally doesn't affect their stats whatsoever. And the big difference is that there's multiple levels of quality. The quality is kind of just based on rarity of the pet. If it's automatically a rare pet, then it's going to always be blue, which is the highest quality. But ones out in the wild can be gray, green, or blue, or white. All right, white is second, gray first, etc. And there's ways to upgrade them, but that's kind of the EV. So, you know, you get a gray pet and you boost it to 25. Well, it's garbage compared to a blue pet at 25. You know what I mean? But that has nothing to do with how you trained it. So that's a bit different. Now, this is a huge difference, all right? Damage is dealt in a much different way in the WoW pet battling one, okay? The move strength is actually determined in a much more basic way, all right? There is no stab, as we've spoken about, and there's not actually, like, so compared to Pokemon, right, which has natures, you know, like the Pokemon is less defensive and more offensive by like a nature, and then there's abilities like, I don't know, when a Pokemon that you're fighting is below 50%, you do more damage, stuff like that. And then there's also, you know, held items like Magnet makes electric type do more damage. And then there's still the special and physical split. So, you know, like using Thunderbolt on Ampharos, which has a lot more special attacks, going to do more damage than if you use Thunder Punch, stuff like that. That's very, very complicated and a great system in Pokemon, but it has nothing to do with WoW. It's not in it in any sense. There is a bonus to damage, speed, and health. Those are literally the only 3 stats that like can be changed. All right, damage, speed, and health. And you have a bonus, so like it kind of encourages you to pick a Pokemon that has, maybe if you want it to be like a sweeper, quote unquote, like do a lot of damage, you want to pick one that has a damage split. It has more damage and has health, etc. But otherwise it's very, very basic. Okay, now combat healing is a big topic in Pokemon, especially, you know, say for the Elite Four, something like that. You're trying to stall, you're using a Gengar with Dream Eater to try to just one-shot Blake or Lance's Dragonite, you know what I mean? And then you're gonna res it and do it again. Well, that's not an option in Pokemon. There's no resing in items, nothing like that. No combat resing, no healing whatsoever by combat items, okay? But in turn, there's a lot more healing moves and weather effects, okay? There's weather, it's kind of like field effects in Pokemon Reborn, or, you know, like it's raining in the regular Pokemon games, etc. It does affect the game in multiple ways, but a lot of them actually affect like healing and being blind and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. But there's a lot more healing moves in lieu of no like items. All right. Now gamble moves. What we're talking about here is you know, basically an ability like Eruption, I think, is a good, I can't remember, man. There's Fire Blast, I think, is one. 120 damage, 70 accuracy, something like that. You know what I mean? That's a gamble. Obviously, if it pays off, you're winning. If not, like Thunder, right? That's a great example. 120 accuracy, or 120 damage, 70 accuracy. There's a lot of abilities like that in both games. Okay, so that's a pretty big similarity. But WoW has worked hard to ensure that, like, your normal abilities, so say I use, I don't know, Brick Break, right? 80 physical damage, 100% accuracy, but it misses all the time because accuracy is not only based on your accuracy, it's based on both Pokemon. In this game, it is only based on your move's accuracy, and there's a lot of abilities. Basically, accuracy in this game is a way to counteract the strength of the ability, right? It's like an inverse proportion. When the strength is higher, the accuracy is lower. It's almost always like that, unless there's a turn limit on it, but that's a whole nother topic. All right, this wasn't the way it was in the start. In fact, there was a lot more misses in the beginning, and people just hated it, which is really telling because, you know, Pokemon's worked this way forever, and nobody seems to complain about it. Well, I mean, they do, but it's never actually addressed. But in WoW, they literally had to address it because people weren't doing battles because they just missed, and it was just so frustrating, you know? So that's actually a huge difference. WoW has pretty much like weeded out that system, which is interesting. And that's pretty much everything. All right, so this is like a combat readiness guide for the differences between WoW pet battles and Pokemon, especially, you know, combat mechanics, stuff like that. If you have any questions, let me know. There's going to be 2 more videos, one about kind of my pros and cons about both games and why you should play either, or, you know, the differences at least between either in terms of strengths and weaknesses. And then there's going to be one all about the PvE scope and PvP scope in both games and how they're different. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, like I said, but otherwise, if this was too long, I don't know how you made it this part, but in the description is a full transcript and timestamps to each like sub thing that's been on this PowerPoint. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, which, you know, you should have, because if you didn't, then you did it wrong. You're meant to enjoy it, you know what I mean? That's kind of the goal. So